everybody. This is Lisa Brerley. This is episode 25 of Soulmates and Suitcases. And right next to me is my husband, Scott Brerley. And we're excited to have our guest on today, Cindy Drummond, coming from Calgary, Alberta, up here in Canada. Depending where you're tuning in, could be up, could be over. So today's guest, Cindy, is someone who knows what it means to rebuild after life throws you some major curveballs. Cindy Drummond is an author, so we're excited to hear more about your book, Cindy. She's a mother and a woman who turned a deeply personal journey into something powerful and healing, not just for herself, but for others as well. So, Cindy, I'm glad you're here. We're so glad you're here. Can you start maybe by sharing a little bit about who you were before all this happened? Because we'll get into that.
That's a great question because I would say that I am that person who had a pretty normal childhood. I grew up my nice home, nice family, never really got in a lot of trouble, and married a nice guy, had two children, and then um, it just wasn't. I thought there was more out there, and so I left my marriage and ended up falling for the wrong person and spent 7 years in that relationship. And that was really eye opening. And that's really what opened the door to a really dark chapter, but then ended up into a whole new path for me.
Mm, mm. So tell us a little more. What was the big shift that happened in your life that maybe blew up your world a little bit?
So I was with somebody for 7 years, and I was head over heels, type of person that when I would walk into a room, all eyes were on me. I felt like I was, but there was also something, that little feeling that you ignore in the pit of your stomach where it's just like, this doesn't feel right, but you can't really equate it with anything. So you kind of brush it off. And then, there's a few more things that don't feel right. Maybe some stories don't add up. And so but you start, at least I did, I started second guessing myself and thinking, maybe I'm crazy. I'm sure that I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being insecure. Maybe I'm jealous. I don't know. But then one morning, woke up, someone was banging on our door, and I looked out the window, and there were 7 police officers at our house, and they took him away in handcuffs. And at that day, I packed up my 2 young daughters, and I knew I couldn't stay in this house with him. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I took my daughters and moved into my parents' basement at 47 years old.
Wow. And so that sounds like it was a huge um weight possibly on your shoulders that you had to make that big move. How did that play out for you? Like what went through your mind that day and the days to follow?
Um, some shock, disbelief, and you can't. I mean, just because it's really hard to just shut down all the emotions that you feel. Like I was angry, and I was hurt, and I was betrayed and heartbroken and all of those things, but I had to think about my daughters. And it wasn't like I just could shut that. We owned that house. There was a mortgage on that house. And so, I still had to have interactions for about 12 months while we figured out how to sell the house and do all that stuff. So I was almost living this kind of little bit of a double life where I was keeping my children safe and not having any contact with them and him, obviously, but also trying to sort of just play nice because, it was a house that I owned and I had a lot of equity, and so it was very challenging for about 12 months.
Yeah.
How did the kids cope with it?
Mm.
So he was not their dad. So obviously they were shocked as well. I tried to do the right things. Like I tried to make sure that we got some counseling and they were talking to people. And they completely understood and they didn't want to ever see him again either. But, he'd been around for 7 years. And
Hmm.
so there was definitely some things that they needed to process. Um, and you don't really know, because how much do you force them to process at that time? Or do you just let them naturally keep the door open and, answer any questions?
Yeah.
I know I'm at a state where the last little while it's just kind of become aware to me at how much the outside influences change
Mhm.
who we are and who we're supposed to be if we're not following, like, dedicated to our own dialogue.
Mhm. I'm going to hope, and as you know, now we can look backwards a little bit, and my daughters are both very well adjusted. But I would say that maybe this actually turned them onto a path. Like, who knows? We don't know what that
Yep.
sliding door reaction is, but I was there for them, and I obviously left the situation, and so they saw that I could do the right thing and be strong and walk away from a bad relationship.
Yeah, it sounds like you did what you knew and you moved forward the best you could.
Hmm.
Did you have family support as well? You said you moved into your parents' house.
I did. My parents were amazing. It was kind of just like, well, obviously, you're going to stay here with your kids and we'll figure it out. So I think that was one of the things that I learned, is that the support system you have makes or breaks you. Because if I hadn't had that opportunity to move home, then what?
Mm.
Hmm.
And sometimes you never know until you're there.
Exactly.
Exactly. And so, do you still feel now like that you're dealing with it in some way, whether it's patterns that were created during those 7 years or things that are, trigger you or things that are coming up, or do you feel like you've put it in the past and moved forward?
Let me say that I absolutely know that I've put it in the past and I move forward, but I did a lot of work. So I don't want somebody to hear this and think, oh well, that's like I did do the counseling, I did do the journaling, I did the meditation, I did all, and challenging myself to of the lofty idea of to heal myself through dating. Right? So I did the work.
Yes, now this
So,
this is
yeah, here's the,
your book. I'm excited about
so
this.
you help heal yourself by dating. Can you kind of broaden that spectrum for us?
That sounds crazy, doesn't it?
No,
Yeah.
not, no, no, actually it doesn't. I got a similar, little bit of a similar story.
I was in my parents' basement, and I was like, at first I was like, well, obviously I'm never going to date again, and I can't trust men, and I can't trust myself, and how did I make this bad decision? And then it just kind of hit me that no, like I need to learn how to trust again, and I need to, you know, restore my faith in mankind, literally mankind, men. And so I said, I'm gonna go on 50 dates. And I'm gonna take the next year, and I'm going to prove to myself that there's still some good guys out there.
Mhm. And so, tell us some of
Tell
the
us, come on,
stories. I know
give us the
we
goods.
can read your book, but we like to hear some.
Um, Dating is really hard. You have to go into the idea of dating with a lot of resilience, with a sense of humor. Um, and but what there was probably a point, and I don't know exactly when that point was, when I realized that, and I was focused on meeting all these people, but it was who I was showing up with each time. When I showed up for that first date, I was a wreck. I drove there crying, like, and because I was scared and I was not sure that I could do this. And then I kind of was like, okay, well, then I would come home and I would reflect, how did I show up on that date? Did I ask questions? Was I just talking the whole time? Was I engaged? And every time I got better, and then I was like, well, wait a minute. You're just learning how to date yourself. Really, you're just learning who you are and how you want to show up in the world. And that's, I think, when the switch went on.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It does come down to how we show up.
Mhm.
And whoever you meet can can put up that mirror to reflect how you are showing up.
100%.
Any really funny dates? Any really crazy dates?
Oh, yes, there was some crazy dates, but I will so there was this one fellow who I decided, and I was very careful who was I was introducing to my friend group, and none of these dates met my kids. Um, well, maybe one did. So this one guy, I'd thought, okay, I'm going to invite him to games night. Games night is with three of my closest couple friends. We get together, just as it sounds, we play games. This fellow shows up. He proceeds to get fairly intoxicated. And one of the questions was about where does a woman wear perfume if she wants it to last the longest? He says, I know this one, runs over to me and puts his head between my chest and basically motorboats me in front of my friends. My friend Karen, and she's not a Karen, like she's the nicest Karen you know, but she stood up and she said, buddy, you're off the island. And she said, we're calling you an Uber right now. So again, power of friends and power of people that care about you and support you. But yeah, that was not appropriate.
No,
No.
not at all. And so
No.
did you find yourself going, like making a list of who you were hoping to find, or was it really about rediscovering yourself?
I did make a list, but I actually made the list on the anniversary of the 1 year that I'd started dating. So I had now dated. It was right around, yeah, it was about the 1 year anniversary, and I was with a good friend of mine, and she said, "Okay, like you've hit your mark. It's been a year. You've met 50 guys. Now what?" And I said, "Well, maybe I go on another 50 dates. I don't know." But I said, I think I'm going to really now make it a list. And I know that's common, people do that. And so I started thinking about, you know, who I wanted to be with and what was important to me. And it wasn't things like, it was things like must have a job, must, maybe they have two suits instead of just one suit that they wear to every funeral every 6 years. So I had a pretty basic list, but it was, people that, somebody who has a good relationship with their mother or somebody who has kids, because I definitely wanted that commonality of somebody that it's hard to date somebody if they don't have kids.
Hmm.
If you have kids, because no one else is going to understand when you do the weird things that you do for your kids, especially like picking them up at 2 in the morning. So I needed to know that somebody got that.
Yeah, for sure. Having that sort of equal understanding or respect, at least for each other and what they
Yeah.
want or need.
We've
Yeah.
had a couple incidences, not incidents, let me rephrase that. Lisa had come up with this idea that she was going to do that I didn't think was a really good idea. However, I didn't approach her like it was a bad idea. All I did was approach her every time we talked a little bit, I would point stuff out in the direction, look at this and look at this. And all of a sudden, one day, probably 8 months later, she goes, yeah, you're right. And it wasn't about me being right. It was just about making aware, like let's make the best decision we can make. And I think you're pretty happy with the decision you made, aren't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. That it's called an open conversation.
Yeah, like we have an open book.
Respect for each other for sure. And so as you were sort of rediscovering yourself and kind of finding your values you talked about or the things that were important to you, did you also want to see that in the people you were dating as well? So they were looking to grow, and if they were stagnant, that it maybe have been a turn off or
Absolutely. And um, I think that you should want to be with somebody who makes you the best version of yourself, right? And so, you know, it's easy to sort of make excuses for somebody's bad habits. Like if, and this is just an example, but let's just say that you know that you don't want to date a smoker, but then you date a smoker, and then that's either making you mad, or then you're just like, oh well, maybe I want to smoke. And that's just an example, right? So I think it's, or somebody that says that they go to the gym, then it's like, well, that's great inspiration because I want to go to the gym more. So
Mhm.
it doesn't mean you don't have to be perfect, but I think I think it's important that you look for that person who's got some of the skills that you admire so that you bring those out in yourself.
I love that understanding that you want to lift up the other person in some way. I know for us, we've come to a place of respect. When we met each other, it was kind of interesting that, we ate fairly similarly. We didn't drink, we didn't smoke. All the things seemed to like come into play because we had a lot of commonalities. However, we were definitely from two different sides of the track.
Yeah.
And needed to respect each other in their growth journey. And I think that was a big thing that we came to an understanding of for sure.
Hmm. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And so it was after your book you began the luminescent healing, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the luminescence healing, I started this company 2 years ago with one of my best friends from high school, and so we opened up this center just a couple of years ago so that we could her lifelong dream, because she's been in and out of the medical system,
Mm.
was to heal people, and my superpower is bringing community together. So it was just a really nice collaboration.
Mm.
So we've heard about your book. Do you got a copy that you can flash in front of the screen so we can actually see the book?
I
When
do.
yeah, there you
There.
go.
Yeah,
Reflections from the dating pool. And we were getting a reflection at one
you
point there.
are.
Thanks.
Fantastic. And where is your book available?
It's available on Amazon and available locally. I think it's probably also on the one for Indigo, but most people find it on Amazon.
Amazon. Excellent. And so tell us a little bit more about what sort of services you have at Luminescent Health.
Sure. So it's a unique technology that we use. I believe for people that are located near you, there is a center in Vernon and in Blind Bay. But if you imagine, we're electrical beings. If our heart stops, they charge our heart with a defibrillator. So knowing that we're electrical beings, our bodies are perfectly capable of healing themselves, just like your cell phone. Your cell phone starts dying, you plug it in. So imagine a room that is dark setting, lounge chairs, and in the four corners of the room are monitors that are running a program which just looks like chakra colors, but it's creating a toroidal field of energy. And this energy is basically like grounding on steroids. So when we're in this energy, you can feel the energy, and it sounds very woo woo. But if your cell vitality increases, your body does what it knows how to do and it begins to heal itself. So, for pain management, anxiety, depression, autoimmune, it's a wonderful tool.
Wow. And my apologies, I said luminescent health. It's a luminescent healing.
Very close.
Yes, yes. Wow, that's an amazing. How long has that been around now, Cindy?
Well, would you believe the technology, the scalar wave technology, has been around since about the 50s? Nicholas Tesla talks about frequency healing. The Egyptians used frequency healing. The Chinese use like chi is the life force of, but really it's only sort of been coming more, it's an alternative health as opposed to Western
Yeah.
medicine for sure. But it is gaining more traction. They are using sound healing and NICU units in hospitals and things like that. So it's growing.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, I was speaking with a shaman today, and we were talking about a lot of our physical ailments and such is kind of rooted in the emotional side and the energy side, like what you're speaking about. So definitely, that very important. It's a big awareness these days, that's for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I know I even I have a pinched nerve in my neck and I've had some medical stuff done. However, when it starts to get a little tight, I just need to remind myself, like, because what I do is go like this. And then what
Yes.
does that do? Make it worse. And then I tighten up more. And it's like now I just keep reminding myself, let it relax. And it,
Let it go.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. So I want to go back to your book, so I may clip this back into that section, but how is your book organized? What will our audience expect when they read your book?
It is, I took basically my journal and I wrote, so it starts with date number one and it goes through all 50 dates and beyond. Um,
Oh,
and there is some, I mean, I go to Bali that year, and so there's a little bit about me being in Bali, so the best compliment I've ever received from somebody is they said, it felt like we were sitting down over dinner and you were just telling me about your last year. And so yeah, it's an easy read. There's some humor. You might shed some tears at some parts. I don't know.
I love that. I love that. And who do you hope will pick up your book?
Anybody could read my book. I know married men have read my book and been strangely engaged, but it's for the person who needs hope. It's for the person who maybe is terrified of going into the dating world. Um, if they just maybe might want to dip their toe into the dating pool after reading my book.
Mm,
nice.
very inspirational.
Thanks.
I got to get myself a copy. I know. I'm very interested on about these dates and what happened to you.
It's kind of crazy how life changes though, because if you had asked me 4 years ago, would I have written a book? I would have laughed. And I've written a book, and if you had asked me 4 years ago if I'd be having podcasts with other authors to help promote their books and stuff, I would have laughed as well because I'm an old construction worker
Hmm.
that's what I've done my whole life. And it's like we never know where life's gonna go. And it's like books like yours and mine, it's about to inspire people how to live differently. And it's not that they're living wrong, it's just different choices. It's kind of like I said early, these worldly clamors that get put in our head about what's right and what's wrong and what's
Yeah.
not to do, what and it's like that might be great for you, but is it great for me?
Yeah.
100%. And I think that everybody has a story.
Hmm.
And writing that story out, when you asked, was there how I got through it? Writing the story was the most cathartic
Mm.
journey. Once I wrote and cried and swore and all the things, like it's out of me now. It's out there for the world, I guess. But no, that was the most cathartic thing that I ever did was write it down on paper. And then it's not so scary.
Yeah, that exactly reminds me of what the publisher that we have gone with, she says it's not about the book, it's about the person that you end up at the end of the book.
Mm,
I
I
didn't
love
word her exactly correctly, but that's you understand what I'm saying, right?
it. Mm.
Yeah.
So would you recommend people kind of in a similar situation that are looking for partners to go on lots of dates?
Mm,
I think you have to.
mm,
Like I know that there's stories where you just go on one or two dates and you meet the one, but how I don't know. I think that you have to. I think you have to be willing to um, meet different people and to really know what you want, in my experience.
Lisa and I never even went on a date.
For that you need to explain to me.
It,
We met at a 7 day self-development class,
Yeah.
and for some reason, both of us thought it went till Sunday,
yep.
and it ended on Saturday. And I don't know who said what, but Lisa goes, "Well, I don't have to be back to Calgary till Sunday." And I said, "Well, I guess we're going for dinner tonight." And we've been
That's how it
together ever
started.
since.
And
Hey,
it's
I
interesting.
guess it is a date because we went for dinner, but
It is a date, but instead of us going on many dates with different people, it's like we found this each other and we've only grown like crazy since. So something was right when we
yeah.
met. I mean, we met at a place where we knew we both wanted to grow. So that was the ideal sort of
We've done
situation.
self-development classes, we've done healing, we've done like
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to be able to compete with divine intervention. So if the universe wants you to meet your soulmate, then that, yes.
Well, and actually, the story gets a little funnier because I was supposed to go to San Francisco to the course, and COVID hit. So just after COVID, when they opened up the borders a little bit, the staff came up here and put the course on in Canada, and I had to go to Alberta, and that's how,
That's
like,
how we
we're,
met. Yeah, we were supposed to be like a year apart, seeing this, going to the course and everything.
The
Yeah,
universe works in mysterious ways.
yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting.
Mhm.
But anyway, where can our listeners, our audience, find you? How can they find you? And you did mention that your book was on Amazon. So where can they find you, Cindy?
I would love to hear from anybody that wants to share a story, ask questions. The easiest way is to probably find me just by emailing Cindy Drummond, my full name, at shaw.ca.
Perfect, perfect. And I'll include all the details in the description. Thank you,
And
Cindy.
before we go, I would also like to put it out there. Anybody that's written a self-help book, anybody that's a coach, if you choose to want to be on a podcast, hit us up.
Yeah.
We're both authors.
Yeah, coaches as well. So yes, we're excited to spread the story of many, I think is what we're excited to do and share these positive growth moments. So thank you so much, Cindy.
Thanks,
We
Cindy.
appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
That was
And
awesome.
yeah.